Hey everybody, my name's Adam Brous,
I'm Scott Maupin.
and this is Solutions from the Multiverse, where we bring you a new solution every week to your happy earballs.
So thanks for joining us, and come by each Tuesday morning. We'll have a new episode ready for you. Here we go.
Hello, Scott. I have just emerged from the multiverse and I bring a solution. It's actually already a solution in our world. People just don't know it. So this is already a thing. It's not new. I didn't invent this, but it's not known very wide in a widespread mainstream way. And I will now share it with you. So it has to do with motivation. A lot of times people feel like changing their lives is hard, or like staying motivated is hard.
Yes.
And that's definitely true, right?
Yeah.
The problem is what the research says and what people do, there's a huge disconnect. And so like, for example, there was this book, Atomic Habits, that came out that was like super popular.
I have this book. Yes. I've read this book.
Yeah. And that's a good one. And there's other ones too, Drive. Is a book that a lot of people like, kind of a classic at this point from like the early 2000s about motivation.
Mm-hmm.
But what all these books miss is actually what the most strong data says, but is like hard to package into like a book that everyone wants to read, into like a popular book. But it's actually the best way to increase your motivation and then do things like change your life.
Win the lottery.
Win the lottery helps.
Wait, no, that would actually decrease I guess motivation in what regard?
That would increase your motivation to drive Lamborghinis, but it would lower your motivation to like work on yourself, probably.
To work a 9 to 5.
Yeah, or do anything for anyone ever. So the answer is, though, so this is what the actual research points out, is the answer is actually your environment. And this is what people don't understand. And so some of these books, like Atomic Habits, starts to sort of touch on it, but it really doesn't. Everyone always acts like it's a matter of like will or ideology. This is what all these books say. Drive. It's like, it's like your ideology is like what you believe. Do you believe that you're the locus of control? Self-determination theory. It's a belief. It's an ideology. Or do you have like or is it like a character trait? Well, I have a strong willpower. It's my character trait, willpower. Grit. This is like the Angela Duckworth. Like, do you have grit? It's like a personal character trait, or it's like a muscle that you get by like doing hard things. You strengthen that muscle. All of this is like not actually really true. I mean, it's true a little bit on the edges, but the real fundamental, like what the actual research around motivation says, is the way to change people's behavior and increase their motivation is changing their environment. That's the answer. Like, that's the actual answer. It's just no one writes books about that because it's like boring. I wrote a book about it. It's called Motivate by Adam Brous. You can go read Motivate. And I don't really say this up front. It's more just kind of woven through because it's all research. The whole book is research. But this is the real takeaway, is that if you want to change your motivation or you want to change your life, the number one thing you can do with the most certainty, actually with almost 100% certainty, is to change your environment for the better.
So wait, let me check. You're not saying just like if you go into a room with yellow walls instead of green walls, you're going to have more motivation.
No, it's got to be more. Yeah.
You're talking more like, are you saying like if you don't have motivation, maybe there's a reason why, and it's based on how you're set up.
It's based on your environment.
Reacting to that.
Yes.
So if you change the setup that you're in, it'll change how you react, including starting to get motivated and do stuff that you wouldn't have done before.
Correct. And people don't like this. This is not an emotionally satisfying explanation. And that's why there's no books. There's not like a lot of popular books written about it, because people have a cognitive bias, which is also well studied, which is called the fundamental attribution error. Are you familiar with fundamental attribution error?
I've heard it. Yeah. But tell me exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. It's a cognitive bias that all human beings have, which is to overemphasize the importance of character on behavior. when really environment is far, far more impactful. Like environment actually almost, well, if you're like a hard determinist, then you actually believe environment determines what people do. But it's hard. I'm not. I mean, it's a little bit not. It's not as extreme as that in the science. There's some. If someone really decides to like do something, like will really asserts their will, and there's cases where people go against their environment and they go totally against it. So, but those are just rarities. Those are like exceptions. The general rule is your environment pretty much, it doesn't determine, but it sort of circumscribes, and it deeply influences what you're going to be able to do and what you're going to end up doing.
I find it strange that people don't like this, because I feel like
they don't like it. They don't like it.
If you were told, hey, it's not your fault, it's not your fault, it's just something that you can totally change, I feel like that would be good, met with a good response, instead of people being, yeah, that's odd to me. That's interesting.
Well, I think it goes back to self-determination theory, so people want to feel like they're in control of their lives, right? People want to feel like a sense of agency. And so if you tell them, well, the research really says you do have, I like to think of it positively. You do have a sense of agency. You can change your environment.
In setting up your spot. But people want more agency. They want to be like, I can do whatever I want to do despite the effects of the environment.
Exactly. People want to feel like they're spontaneously free and their will can overcome things, and it's true, it can in exceptional cases, but it's just not realistic in everyday cases. Like if you want to, like a really simple example, personal example for me is if I buy cookies like that I like to eat, like there's these IKEA cookies that are like oatmeal, kind of like oatmeal with dark chocolate on one side.
Okay.
And they sell them at IKEA, they sell them in these huge square boxes. There's probably like 50 cookies in one box, which is a huge number of them.
That's how they get you. And
I want to buy them. But man, if I buy them, I will eat all 50 of those cookies in about, I don't know, a week.
Yeah.
Like 10 a day, 8, 5, 7 a day. And it's not healthy. That's like adding 1,000 calories a day more to my diet that I definitely don't need to eat. So that's like a perfect example. Like, could I buy those 50 cookies and then like by sheer force of will, like mete out eating only 2 of them a day? Maybe if like my life depended on it, but is it am I realistically going to do that? No, I'm just going to eat so many cookies until I get a stomachache every day. And that's going to be the thing that stops me from eating the cookies. And that's basically just the way we are in our environment most of the time.
Well, that makes sense, because I would do the same. I have the willpower to keep it out of my kitchen. But you're right. If it was there, I'd probably buzz by and nibble from time to time and get into all sorts of trouble. But yeah, it's that's the control I can exert, I've found, at least successfully, because the other thing is just a lie you tell yourself. So when you say environment, are you talking about like the room you're in? Are you talking about like the house? Are you talking about the city you're in? Are you talking about you need to change the country you're in?
Yeah, it depends. It depends. I mean, it depends on it depends on what kind of goal you're trying to, like if you want to change your life, that could be very diverse. If you're just trying to increase your motivation, you probably don't need to change cities, because most cities are basically the same, But if you want to change your life, then you might have to really look at how, changing your whole environment, including maybe where you live or the people you interact with every day, or there's a case of this well-studied research around drug addiction. I mean, most people are just normal. They don't have drug addiction, but it's indicative of this whole phenomenon, which is environment kind of circumscribing motivation and change in your life. Mm-hmm. If people do drugs, like if every time you get into a car, you light up a cigarette to start driving. I had a friend who did this. Every time she got in a car, she'd crack the window and light a cigarette and then drive the car. And it was like automatic for driving cars. Mm. Well, honestly, if she started riding the bus, it would help her quit smoking, because she can't light up a cigarette on the bus. So that's an example of like changing your environment would then support changing your behavior, for example. I had another friend, this is to do with smoking as well. I had another friend who His name was Abel. Mine is Adam. So we were Adam and Abel, like biblical hangouts. And we were in Spain. This is when I lived in Spain for a little bit when I was a teenager. And he would smoke cigarettes a lot, which in Spain was like possible. In America, it's a bit of a taboo already by then. But in Spain, it was like everyone was smoking like chimneys. So he would always have like a pack of cigarettes and light up a lot. But he said this thing once, which even at the time seemed absurd to me, but didn't seem absurd to him. He took out a cigarette. He was like, I want to quit smoking. He already had told me that because he knew it was unhealthy and it was making him sick. He was getting coughs and like a lot and like getting fever, colds often because his immune system's bad.
Sure. The classic cigarette reaction.
Yeah, he wanted to quit. But to illustrate to me, he took out a cigarette and he put it down in front of him on like the table of the restaurant or cafe we were in. And he was like, if I set this here, I can't stop myself from picking it up and smoking it. Like if I try and we start talking and I get even a tiny bit distracted, my hands will just put it in my mouth and I'll start smoking. And I won't realize until the cigarette's halfway gone. And so to him, this was just this failing, this like personal failing, like, look, I have this personal failing. And already to me at that time, before I knew the research that I know now, I thought that's kind of silly. Like obviously if you have it right in front of you, you're going to, do it. Yeah, you shouldn't even buy a pack of cigarettes, right? Like you shouldn't live in Spain. I mean, you shouldn't live in a place where everyone's smoking all the time.
That's a good point.
You should remove the environmental triggers and the environmental access. And if you do that, it actually probably won't be very hard at all to quit smoking.
And just the cultural permission that doesn't exist everywhere. Like there's an okay in Japan too. There's a cultural okay with smoking that doesn't exist the same way in America.
Yeah. So that would be a case of like actually moving countries would be good. We don't always have the freedom to do that. So you have to kind of work inside the confines of where you are. But just to drive this example even further home for people who might be skeptical, there's a very famous research of Vietnam veterans who are addicted to heroin in Vietnam.
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
No.
So in Vietnam, American soldiers, I think it was 1/5 of American soldiers were addicted to heroin because it was easy to get heroin because they were in the Middle East where they grow heroin.
Not a lot of
and
dopamine hits there.
They were, right. You're just like laying in, wet jungles all day long and you have access to heroin. It makes you feel great. Your bombs are blowing up. You're afraid you're going to be killed. You can't sleep. Well, you take heroin, you fall right asleep.
Cope with
sleep great.
Some horrors.
Well, not great because you're coping, right? You're coping and you're diverting yourself, and and there's nothing else to do. All you have to do is sit around and like clean your gun and stack stuff up, and the military is just enforced idleness. Right? That's what the military. Until there's a battle, which is like for 10 minutes or a day, there's nothing to do really the rest of the time.
Right.
Except for like rub your gun down or whatever.
Except be ready.
Yeah, be ready for the next time like bullets start firing. So people were terrified. This was a well-known public health scare. People were like, "Oh my God, there's going to be drug addicts on every corner because these hundreds of thousands of I don't know how many hundreds of thousands, millions of soldiers are going to come back from Vietnam, and 1/5 of them are addicted to heroin.
So many people are coming back. This percentage of them,
it's going to be like 25,000. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's going to be some tens of thousands of these, or 100,000 of these heroin addicts. Well, the common idea is if you're addicted to heroin, it's a personal failing. And it's an ideology, and it's a thing that you're not going to be able to kick because it's a personal failing and it's a willpower problem and blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what happened? We didn't have every single street corner heroin addicts. They came back and 99% of them all stopped doing heroin.
What? Why? Because heroin's not actually that bad?
Because their environment changed.
The environment changes.
No, because their environment changed. No, heroin's the most addictive substance on the planet, second to nicotine.
But they're I don't need
the thing that caused me to need. They couldn't access it.
Yeah. And the access. The supply
so they
and
couldn't
demand.
access it. They had other things. Yeah, they could do other things with their time. They could sleep in a nice warm bed. They could, go on dates and go get a beer with their friends, and they could and they could go to work and dedicate themselves to something interesting and, meaningful to them and make money and go to movies. And, they weren't in a war anymore. And they didn't need to cope. They didn't need so right. So that's an indication. Not so if you say like, oh man, I have some problem with my environment, or I have some problem that has a lack of motivation or lack of willpower, and then I say, well, you should change your environment around it. And then you say, well, that's not going to work. It's like, well, it worked for heroin addicts. So I'm pretty sure it's going to work for you, like trying to watch less TV.
Yeah, that's a strong indicator that it works for most, that it should work for anything under heroin addiction.
Right. If it's less, well, and nicotine is worse. So I will say it is hard to quit smoking. Although hypnosis cures smoking.
Hypnosis is hard to quit.
Know that already. Hypnosis is one of the best. Hypnosis is very addictive.
Yeah, I heard totally all the people in Vietnam, the other 38% were on heroin, but the other 62% were all doing hypnosis. That was what they were spending their time with. They were like, we don't have time for heroin. We're turning each other into chickens.
Playing our butts like bongo drum. Right? Yeah, that's right. You get addicted to heroin. You get addicted to hypnosis. That's pretty serious.
It was a weird time. The 70s, Vietnam was weird.
Yeah, it was a strange time. Yeah, late 70s, late 60s, early 70s was very strange. So, change your environment. You can increase your motivation. You can change things about your life. I think we see some of this that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I assume this works in reverse. I mean, it seems like it would work in reverse as well. If
bad habits.
If you put yourself in a bad spot, you're going to start being inclined to do bad stuff, and likewise,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this goes also for social ills as well. Like people think, oh, this is also part of this sort of fundamental attribution error, cognitive bias, which is not true. So, for example, people say, "Oh, he's a thief," right? Or she's a murderer, right?
Okay.
They say we classify someone who has fallen into crime as a type. We typecast them. We say your role is you are a burglar because you've burgled 5 houses or whatever. You have a history of burgling houses. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So you're a burglar. Or they lie, they're a liar, right?
Yeah.
And you might have compulsive lying. You might literally have like a psychological problem where you're a compulsive liar. But in crime, in something like a social ill like crime, it's actually a lot more like this like heroin in Vietnam. It's usually embedded, it's almost always embedded into a social context. And if you disrupt that social context, you actually will disrupt the crime. You'll stop the crime.
So how do you mean it's embedded in a social context? What is that?
Yeah. So you might say, well, he's a burglar. He goes around and rattles doorknobs. And when he finds an open doorknob, he goes in and he takes stuff and goes out. Burglar.
Right.
It's not a good thing. It's a crime. I've been burgled before when I was in my house. It's terrible. It's not good. But what's the context in which they're burgling, right? It's probably a lot of things. It's not just that they have a character flaw of being a burglar, or they are somehow genetically were born to burgle or something. It has to do with their.
If it's Catwoman.
Catwoman is different. Let's not get into that. Those the leather leggings of Catwoman. But they're inside of a social. Okay, it sounds obvious when you talk about it. Yeah, Catwoman accepted. It's almost too obvious when you start to describe it. But obviously, they're going to be low socioeconomic status, right? Stats. They're going to not have very much money, right? Clearly.
I think a burglary is either I'm trying to get something of value so that I can exchange it for value, or I already have my eye on a specific thing and I'm like, I want that thing.
Right. And a serial burglar is definitely just going to be going into houses virtually at random, right? And they might case a place first. They might hear about that there's a drug dealer they want to get. Yeah. Or they're going to steal their neighbors.
I'm just looking for silverware, jewelry, whatever generic value.
Yeah, valuable stuff or whatever. So, anyways, all of that's embedded inside of a social context. This is why welfare systems reduce crime. But for some reason, left-wing people never say this. Partly because they have a soft spot for criminals. They don't want to malign criminals and say, "Oh, want to be tough on crime. But the reality is, if you provide everyone, for example, like health insurance, they stop doing crimes because they don't need to anymore, because their economic status is never so precarious that they need to go steal from other people or deal drugs.
I think you're right. You're onto some there, because it does seem like a more of a right wing ideal to be saying like, no, we don't think that's a transmutable thing. It's like you're either a criminal or you're not a criminal.
They're a criminal,
and
right. They're a drug addict,
and we like that because I can classify and write these people off as criminals. I also like that because me, who is in a position not to be a criminal, I don't want to believe that if I were in their shoes, I would do the same thing. I want to think that I have a different moral standard.
I have a different moral, which is not true. Which is not true. Right. If you're in their exact situation, the chances are you probably do roughly the same thing. Also, what people don't realize about crime is that rich people do as much or more crime than poor people. It's just usually not violent crime. Actually, they even do violent crime as much. It's just not reported nearly as much. Like rich people beat their wives, they do things.
And there are ways to sidestep consequences.
Right, exactly. It doesn't get reported, sidestep consequences. Rich people are drug addicts just as much as poor people. Rich people, they're just addicted to different drugs, more expensive drugs.
Well, not Elon Musk,
and I think. Right, he's definitely addicted to drugs. But they abuse drugs. They do crimes. They do, but it all gets this kind of veneer of like whatever social acceptability, because they're rich and So I mean, but the main thing is, if you want to change people's behavior, you change their environment. So if you want to change your behavior, you can change your environment. Or if you want to increase your motivation, you can change your environment to increase your motivation. We see some of this in like very simple like advice from like the manosphere, the kind of advice that people don't disagree with from the manosphere. Like Jordan Peterson said, like, make your bed when you wake up in the morning. No one thinks Jordan Peterson is a monster for thinking people should make their bed in the morning. People think he's a monster because he's a monster and he does other things that are morally absurd and objectionable. Some of his perspectives on whatever, trans people and stuff.
People aren't harping on him on the make the bed thing.
No. Yeah, make the bed's good. And he's exactly right, because when you make your bed, you change your environment. Now, all day long, if you're in your room or you're leaving your room or coming into your room, there is a well-made bed in the room. That is enough for you to have an entire cast of mind the rest of the day that things are in your life well-ordered and proper and set up the way you wish them to be in a presentable, acceptable, good way. That has an effect on your on your mind because you have changed your environment. You've made your bed. It's a simple example. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an undeniable effect being in a dirty house versus a clean house, or even just your dirty room versus a clean, ordered, organized room. Is completely different in the way you feel, like your mental state.
Right.
It reflects.
And so people, for some reason, I mean, again, Jordan Peterson or these manosphere, all these Dan Pink, Drive, Angela Duckworth, blah, 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 blah. They're always going to act like the way you change your life or increase your motivation in positive ways is always willpower. You have to have the willpower to make your bed. They almost make it seem like if you have the willpower to make your bed, then that's the reason why. Right. Or you have to have some ideology. Well, I'm a Stoic, so I have this ideology, so that's going to make me change my life or improve my motivation, blah, blah, blah. Turns out that's all just not really true. I mean, it's on the edges. It's like kind of an 80-20. It's like 80% environment, 20% willpower, ideology stuff. But if you change your environment, it doesn't matter what your willpower and ideology is. You're going to be destroyed by the environment. The environment's the dominant variable.
Yeah, it sounds like if you're like running at the end of your willpower internally, you're like, oh, maybe I can give myself some willpower steroids by changing my environment instead of just trying to be like, come on, man, just work harder. Come on, why can't I figure this out? Which I'll blame myself and beat myself up in an instant too, and not think, oh, well, I'm doing natural human things. Why don't I give myself a better, an easier road here?
Yeah, sort of smooth out the pavement a bit before you try to go down the road. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a classic thing. I think this is why a lot of people benefit from fat. You do this. You do the fasting during the, what is it called?
Intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
So that's an environmental change, because if you sit down to a meal, you have to execute some kind of willpower to do portion control. But if you never prepare and sit down to a meal, then you've changed your environment. There is no meal there for you to like have willpower about. Now you have to have a willpower not to go prepare or buy and consume food. But that's actually in a way easier than you've prepared food and now you use your willpower to not eat too much of it. That's actually much, much, much harder from a willpower perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've shared with for me, the thing is like, I'm terrible at moderation. So if I'm eating 3 regular meals, but I'm just like, eat normal, moderated, like very reasonable food, I fail at that more often than if I'm like, all right, just eat at this more narrow time, but I have to be less reasonable with my food choice. That seems to be an easier thing for me to maintain, to hit.
Yeah, and I would say that's because it's an environmental change rather than a willpower demand, right? So if every day there was like a buffet of food just like in your kitchen, just offered to you on your dining table.
Oh, if only.
I would be so fat. I would be so fat because I just sit down and I would just eat until I would like have a distended stomach, and it would be hard for me to stop. Some people can do this. I feel like the most people can't, and the GLP-1 drugs prove it, right? Because that's all the GLP-1 drugs do, like Wegovy and Ozempic, is they chemically make you stop eating after like 80% full. But it's so hard to do that normally. That's why people are so fat. So if you change your environment, you'll change your motivation, you'll change your life. Anyways, this is kind of the trick. If people want to make changes, increase their motivation, it's all about environment.
And sort of a way to ease off some of the burden if you're putting too much on yourself, to be like, man, I can't do this, and I've been trying over and over again. Maybe it's not a personal failing, like you're saying.
It's definitely not.
Be smarter about it, and just go up a level, construct the right space for the success you want, and then put yourself in that and focus on doing that instead of trying to push that ball up the hill over and over again and going, it keeps rolling back down because
my willpower isn't good enough.
It's going to while you're in that same spot. Yeah. If Sisyphus moved to a place where he just pushed it downhill, he could have had so much more free time.
If he just dug some little holding spots for the ball up the hill.
Spend his time chopping the ball into a cube. Okay, so go with me here, and now you can roll it chunk by
just
chunk.
A flat edge.
It's going to be hard to roll it, but you're not going to get your downward it's Sisyphus. Listen to me.
Where are you going?
Hey, he's like, I got to roll this ball, bro. Stop talking.
And the same thing could be said of Tantalus. We don't talk about Tantalus enough. We talk about Sisyphus a lot, but not Tantalus.
Who is Tantalus?
Tantalus.
This one. What is
Tantalus? This? Tantalus was he was in hell too, like Sisyphus, but his torture was he's standing in an orchard, and above him are fruit on trees, and below him is water at his feet. If he reaches up towards the trees, the branches extend away from him, just out of reach. So the fruit's just out of reach, and as he reaches up, the water comes up to his armpits. But as he bends down to drink the water recedes down into the earth. So that when he puts his mouth all the way on the ground, it's like dust. It's like totally dry. So he can't get the water and he can't get the fruit. But when he's down on the ground, the fruit is right over his head. It's like right there. This is where we get our word tantalizing. It's tantalizing.
I was just going to say, it's
Tantalus.
always just out of reach.
Right. So if he just put some buckets on his feet, and maybe some sort of canopy over his head to hold the fruit down, right? What the hell? What are these guys doing in hell? They need hell consultants.
He can't think his way out of his specifically designed torture problem. John Kramer's in there being like, all right, lift the fruit now. He's the jigsaw guy from Saw.
Get a Deloitte Oh, saw, yeah. I was going to say get like a Deloitte consultant in there. Well, what you're going to need to do here is we need to optimize the synergy between the water and the fruit resources. Oh my God.
His hope isn't being dashed hard enough. We need to get just a little close. If he could
Oh, you're
graze
saying
the
if it's
fruit
all
with
to
his
try to make it even
fingertip
worse.
somehow.
Oh God!
Yeah,
And then just
we
taste
gotta
a little bit, but
squeeze
not
all
fruit.
the juice out of this
Right.
man.
We got to
He
squeeze the
isn't hell.
juice
I
out of
mean,
Tantalus.
presumably he's done something unmoral in his life to wind up
he
where
was
he's at.
probably just like a sodomite or something. They don't. It was like Middle Ages. It's not. They probably didn't do anything that bad.
You know what? It was the pride that got him there. He used to walk around the earth, stamping in all the water, going, "Look at all this water I can touch." He'd reach up and just touch all the fruit, and he'd be like, "This is so easy. I'm so tall. This is so easy for me." And they're like, "Oh, okay, buddy. You think it's so easy to touch fruit and step on water? Here, let's see how you like this."
Okay, I looked up what Tantalus did. So King Tantalus committed two ultimate taboos. He stole the gods' divine food, ambrosia and nectar, to share with mortals.
Okay.
And he murdered his own son, cooking his flesh and serving it to the Olympians at a dinner party to test their omniscience. Holy crap!
Okay, so those two seem very different in their severity.
Also, what a stupid way! Why don't you just put your hand behind your back and say, "How many fingers am I holding up?"
Hey, what are you in here for? Just two things. All right, what's one? One was, I stole some fruit. All right, I probably don't even need to hear the other one. I'm sure it's the same sort of. I mean, why would you lead with? Well, what's the other one? Well, I took my kid. All right, you're gonna flayed him, cooked him.
Well, I killed my son. I butchered him, put him in a soup, sold him to the gods because I was trying to prove that the gods. They don't really know that much. They don't really know everything. Oh my God. What a horrible thing.
And the guy's like, the other one is you took fruit.
Yeah. Wow. And then he was, eternal torment. Reach up for fruit, reach down for water.
Tantalus,
I feel like
not
that
so good.
isn't good enough.
I'm anti-Tantalus now. I'm going to go hot take.
That punishment really is more on the stole the food thing. I don't feel like it's really covering the killing the
definitely
child,
reminding him don't steal food more than don't fricassee your
cook
child.
People. Yeah, don't serve the gods. Well, maybe the gods are kind of like, we ate mortals. Who cares? Like whatever. We kill mortals. We eat mortals. Although gods rarely eat people. They have sex with them more. Tantalus, so tantalizing. There you go. Gross. I didn't realize the second one. That's awful. Well, I thought it was more like in the first
dark
one.
History of Tantalus.
Yeah, Jesus. Ooh. Those Greeks really knew how to. Yikes. Saw 7. Saw lambda. Saw gamma. There. That's the Greek.
Yeah, right. Jigsaw could never come up with such a diabolical.
So, anyways, that's the solution for today. All you solutioners out there are going to be hyper motivated. You're going to be able to change your lives on a dime.
No, I love this because a lot of times sometimes we have stuff that is higher level, or like we need change at a structural level or at a state level or at like an institutional level. And this is really something that does work. This works all the way up the chain, but this is also immediately actionable by anyone listening who can think about and go identify, oh, there's that thing that I've been trying to do. Let me attack it a different way. Let me just get humor at him just for a second and go a different way.
Yeah, what's the environmental tactic I could take? For example, when I was getting better at writing, I would go to a coffee shop and write, because in a coffee shop there's nothing else you can do. The internet's slow. There's nothing to do there except for write, And then I would order a sandwich and, so I wouldn't get up because I could eat lunch there and I could just keep writing. So I got to do like 2 or 3 hours of writing every time I went. It was great. And so that's an example. If I were in my house, there's all these things I could do. I could play video games. I could read a book. I could take a nap. I could do, right? Or people building a workstation. I think a lot of people do this without realizing it, but they build like a gaming setup, right? They have like a gaming chair with a gaming PC with a great monitor, with great mouse. Well, guess what they're doing? They're creating an environment conducive to them playing a ton of video games. If you want to play fewer video games, throw away your video game chair, get a crappy mouse, don't have a very good monitor for video game playing, guess what? You won't play as many video games. Like it's like, or the say, or I should share one more thing about the heroin thing, which people
Okay.
might know this. People might know this study, but there was a study done with mice, with rats, I think, where they had the rats they were in a plain cage where they had two buttons. One button was for food pellets and one button was for cocaine pellets. Like they got cocaine.
Okay.
And in a plain cage with like a wheel and a water bottle and these two buttons, all they would do is they would try the food, then they would try the cocaine. And as soon as they taste the cocaine, they would just hit the cocaine button again and again and again. And they would just like die because they would
As
just be addicted
expected.
to
Right.
cocaine.
Well,
Yeah. So what the researchers then did is they took rats and they put them in Rattopia. So they built this like fantastic cage with like multiple cages with like colored plastic tubes going between them with like multiple like games and wheels and things they could play and other rats that they could socialize with and like have babies with and like beat. And then they have the same two buttons, food, cocaine, right next to each other. And the mice just hit the food pellet button all the time. They didn't hit the cocaine button. And so that's kind of the
they
model
weren't
people should
miserable
have
all the
for
time.
humans. Yeah. So this is the model we should
Same
have
as
for
the
humans.
soldiers. Yeah.
Yeah. And even for today, we have the opioid crisis. That's exactly that. This is called a disease of despair. It's because people's lives, their environment of their lives is so awful and stressful and traumatic that they go back and hit the cocaine button every time. They go hit the Oxycontin button every time. If their lives were better, if they had Medicare for all, free education, accessible healthcare, good jobs that were meaningful and interesting to do, and could have good relationships that were, meaningful and positive relationships, they would not hit the button anymore. They would just hit the food pellet button.
You'd see more balanced behavior. Yeah.
Right. So you can take this action on yourself, like, oh, I want to lose weight, or I want to be stronger, or I want to I want to read more. And you can say, okay, what environmentally would make it so I read more? Well, I like to read this way. I like to have the book, so I'll buy the book, and then I like a reading nook, and maybe I read best in bed, so I'll get a really nice light from my bed, so I can like read exactly right or whatever. And read more. Well, that's true, but also at a systematic level. Well, what do we want different in society? Do we want less violent crime? Well, violent crime is embedded in a series of social environments that we can disrupt with policies that have been proven to disrupt crime. So we don't need like more policing, right? We need to change the environment around criminals. I'll give you a perfect example of this, which is called advanced peace. And I've asked the guy, and I've almost got him to come on the solution on the podcast because I've connected to the founder of this. But I'll just tell you a little bit about it. Maybe we'll still have him on the podcast.
Advanced peace sounds like a Minority Report situation.
It's called advanced peace. It is. They pre-crime. Yep. They have precogs and they discover and they go after them. No, advanced peace.
You got a red ball.
That's right. Oh yeah. Dang, that was a good movie. I got to rewatch that. Advanced peace is a thing that started in Stockton, California, and now has spread across 50 cities in the United States, and it's proven to work. And what they do is it's a way to reduce gun violence. And the way it works is, there are neighborhoods that are, gang neighborhoods in America, in these cities. And the police officers actually this is kind of pre-crime. They know who the active shooters are. Like they know, they're like, yep, Tony, whatever, Josh or whatever, who's down the street. He lives there.
People to watch
he's in a gang and he's got a gun, and eventually he's going to shoot it. He shoots it in the air. He shoots it at things. Eventually he's going to shoot it at people, and we're going to arrest him because it's going to be a gun crime. They know. Like these are the 20 active shooter guys in our gang neighborhood. So they know who they are. They know where they live. They know everything about them, but they can't arrest them. Pre-crime, you can't arrest someone until they do a crime, right? So, and you have evidence of it, right? So these gun violence, they know who it is, but they can't go pre-arrest them for just owning a gun or just being someone who shoots a gun in the air or whatever. So what they do is with active peace is they go and they offer them thousands of dollars a month to turn in their guns and leave the gangs. So they go and say, hey, you'll get like a basic income And we're going to help your whole family with social work. We're going to get your mom like the surgery she needs. We're going to get your kid like in the right grade school. We're going to like help you with this.
Right.
We're going to get you. We're going to fix your life. And in exchange, you're going to turn in your guns. You're going to leave the gangs. Well, guess what? They think that's a great deal. They turn in their guns. They leave the gangs, and they do this to all the active shooters. So it massively reduces gun crime. And now, for those of you who say, well, how are you going to pay for it? Which, of course, awful. We've been trained by our awful right-wing media to think you have to ask that question. The reality is that if this costs money, you would still do it because
free handouts that's
exactly
I'm
right.
paying my taxes for them I'm giving them money. No. But tell me why that's wrong, because I'm assuming that's where you're headed.
Exactly. They don't deserve it. It's wrong because every single gun crime, so a single gun crime, someone shooting a gun illegally, maybe hitting someone through windows, blah, blah, blah. The average cost of a single gun crime to the city is $500,000. And that's because ambulances, ER visits, ongoing medical care for the victims, insurance payouts to the buildings, the people, the health, the buildings, every kind of insurance that gets paid out. The police show up, many police cars, they all have to be paid to live to do that. You have to pay for all the bulletproof vests and all of that. Plus the lawyers, you got to charge people, you got to arraign them, you have to pay judges and lawyers and court time to do all this for a single gun crime costs $500,000. So if you, for like a couple $1,000 a month and a little bit of social work, which you already have the social workers there doing anyways, you can like prevent the 10 or 20 active shooters from doing any more. Like you can reduce the number of gun crimes even by 1 or 2 a month or 1 or 2 a year. You're making $1 million. 2 gun crimes prevented is $1 million saved by the city. So it's actually incredibly, So it's actually a huge saving for the public cost to do this, not some kind of expense. Anyway, so this is an example. This is just one example, but we could do this on a much larger scale. For example, Medicare for all. If everyone had health care, that would just be like the amount of crime in the United States would go down precipitously because people would be less desperate for money because they would be better taken care of.
That fewer,
exactly. Not to mention Medicare for all covers mental health care. Like everyone talks about how we have a mental health crisis. Well, guess what Medicare for all would do? Make free mental health care for everyone. Right?
Yeah.
So
provide services that were thrown in the garbage recently. Or even not recently.
Services that were been ripped out. Yeah. Anyways, so we can act on it individually, but it actually expands much bigger than that. We can change the environment of society and get then the consequences that we want. Maybe we want lower crime. Maybe we want more entrepreneurship. Well, guess what? If you want more entrepreneurship, you have to create the environment for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Medicare for all is a huge part of that. What's the biggest thing that stops people from quitting their jobs and starting a new business? Usually is healthcare. That's what's stopping people from being entrepreneurs. So, Medicare for all could also stimulate. I don't want to make it just all about Medicare for all. You might want to also stimulate in entrepreneurship by making like co-working spaces all throughout your whole city. Maybe you say, hey, we're going to subsidize co-working spaces in every neighborhood. So and every co-working space will have like a entrepreneurship clinic that you can access, resources or whatever. But if you create the environment, then you'll get the behavior. And right now we create an environment.
They will come.
If you build it, they will come. There it is. So there it is. Now all the solutioners will be high performing people because they'll know to just change their environment to get whatever they want.
I was going to say it may be way late in the conversation. Is feng shui at all related to what we're talking about?
That's a good question.
Directly related to where they're just like, the problem is if you rearrange this, it will have an effect on you, like you in the space. That's kind of the whole. I don't know very much about it, so I'm not being specific. But
I know. It's funny you bring that up because actually, I watch a lot of feng shui YouTube videos, and I've learned a lot about feng shui because that's been a little hobby of mine. Feng shui is definitely awesome, and people should definitely like set up their rooms with feng shui principles because it is quite nice. and it'll have a small effect, I think, because it'll be like making your bed. Like every day you'll get up and things will just
small
be
change. It's
yeah,
rearranging
things will
furniture.
just be set up. Like one thing you're not supposed to do is so the worst thing you could do is if you were in a room where the windows were across from the door, and then you put your bed head up against the windows and face the feet of the bed towards the door. That would be like F grade feng shui. That would be like the worst feng shui you could do. Because the energy of the door would open right onto, well,
your feet.
Yeah, the energy of the door would open right onto the bed, like out towards the bed, towards the feet of the bed, toward your head. And then if your back, if the bed frame is towards the window, then you have the energy of the windows come in over onto you as well. So you have basically these two high kind of sources of chaotic energy pointing right at your bed and at your head. That's bad.
Right.
So it's better to have the bed, perpendicular to the windows, the door, and make sure, the door opens. You don't want the door to
I'm so happy to hear this. This is how I didn't even think about that. That's how my room is set up. So
yeah, and you can even, if you want to even be even better, if the door opens a particular direction, put it so that the head of the bed is in the opposite direction. So the door energy, when it opens, doesn't hit the bed very much. It goes right. Like if the door opens towards, you don't want the door to open towards the head of the bed. You want it to open towards the foot of the bed, because the door opens from one end.
Powerful feet energy.
Yeah. So the energy of the door, you want it to be able to come in and kind of dissipate without hitting your head, basically. So there's these little things that if you do it, you're basically making it so that it's like how when you take off your shoes when you go into like a Hindu temple or something, like or you take off your shoes when you come into someone's house who does their shoes off. It's not because the bottoms of your shoes are so dirty that you can't come into their house with them. It's because it turns when you take off your shoes and enter, the energy level comes down, and the personalness comes up. And it's kind of a shift. It's the same thing with feng shui. You can use that and it creates this sort of calmness because the energies of people coming in and out of the door don't hit you in the head while you're sleeping. They hit they go up and disperse into the room, and you're in this sort of safer spot. Sometimes they might hit your feet, but your feet are less sensitive to like door energy, the energy coming in and out. But there's also really fancy stuff you can do. Like we were just in a hotel in Korea, and the bed, the layout of the room was insane. And my wife was like, "What the hell are they doing?" There's like 3 couches near the door, and then there was like the bed was like diagonal facing the window, and there was like totally crazy. And I was like, "No, this is like very, very high level feng shui." I bet they hired an expert feng shui person because they were breaking a bunch of rules, but they were breaking them in certain ways where you could break them. Like if you know the rules, you can break them, right? Like if you're an expert.
Like in impressive ways. So a feng shui person's going to be like, ooh la la. What is
yeah. Like ooh la la, ooh la la. Like you're not supposed to have the head messing
with you, like the hotel is trying to mess with you, give you a bad night, so that the next morning they'll be like,
no, they made it great.
Do you need a boost? Do you need some coffee here? Buy us a little extra upcharge?
Yeah. Like for what they did was like the head of the bed was the bed was facing the window at the end of the room. And if you did that, that would be really bad feng shui because when the door opens, you couldn't see the door. So it's kind of like almost scary, like someone could sneak up on you. And in feng shui, you don't want to be able to be snuck up on you. Like that's bad. But because they put so many couches zigzagging through the room before the bed, it's like they disperse that energy into the couches. And so by the time you got to the bed, it's almost like its own little bubble of energy. And so it was like
interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
It's like a series of levees, like in New Orleans.
Yes. That's exactly
to stop
right.
A tidal wave.
That's right. It's like the tidal wave of the door energy was soaked up by like all these weird zigzag couches. And then when you got to the bedroom, it was peaceful water. Yeah.
These crazy geniuses have done it.
God damn it, they've done it. Yeah, that was some great. I was like, whoa, this is great. This is really advanced feng shui. I just do basic feng shui, energy from the window, energy from the door, try not to have things open the wrong way, you know.
That's more advanced than me, so that's impressive. I'm
You
just
gotta be careful where to put
my bed is in the right spot. I just found out.
Your bed's in the right spot. When I come to your house next, I can do a full
I just found out. Yeah, it's good.
I can do a full feng shui breakdown.
Give me an audit.
Yep.
Let's do it. Investigation.
I can't promise to like
have some dinner. We'll eat pizza, walk through with pizza and feng shui at my house.
Yep. Yeah, pizza and feng shui. Feng za. It'll be good. Okay.
Nice.
We did it.
I like it. Absolutely. Thanks for another one, Adam.
Thank you everyone for listening.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll talk more. We'll have another one in a couple weeks. And I think we might be starting an email list. So keep your eyes peeled for an email
list.
Connect
over email. It'll be an easy way to reach out to us and get, thoughts back and forth. That's what we're trying to do too.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, Scott, thanks so much. Thanks everyone. Tune in next time. Bye.
Hey there, thanks for listening to that episode of Solutions from the Multiverse.
Yeah, we're back with a little after roll. Hello.
Hey, after roll. Roll that after roll. So basically, we want you to subscribe.
Yeah.
And rate and review. And tell someone, like take your favorite solution and send it to someone who you think it would like blow their mind to hear it.
Yeah, we love making the show. We're proud of it. And we're excited. We want other people to show. We know that the main way people find podcasts is word of mouth. I know that's true for me. I listen to my friends who also listen to podcasts tell me about ones, and I go, okay, I'm cluing into that. So we want to be part of that chain.
So thanks for being a part of Solutions.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again real soon.
Bye.
Bye.